Hello everybody, today I'm going to give you a quick overview of the design changes I've made to the AYE work holding system for the Pocket NC desktop 5-axis CNC machine, comparing the old design, which you'll see on my Instagram posts and so on, with the new design, which is currently for sale. So I'm going to start by comparing the base plates. So I'll remove the fixture plates for the two. So as you'll see, this is the old version. So when you compare that to the new version, you'll see that I've countersunk a lot of the features. This is to reduce the overall height. It's still located using 4 dowel pins, although I'll only install 3 because 3 is enough and 4 is overkill. It just makes it harder to locate. But I will, of course, send the 4th dowel should you ever need it. To get the height down, what I've done is not only countersunk the screws, but I've also used button head screws which have a lower head height. The diamond pins, the actual contact area is about the same, but they're countersunk obviously, and also I've got rid of this chamfer around the edge, which I realise you just don't need. If you're ever struggling to locate it as well, I've now put in 2 holes which are for long dowel pins to go through, and those locate onto 2 holes in the fixture plate. If I remove the base plate, so they locate into 2 holes in the fixture plate, and they'll just guide it onto the diamond pins if you're struggling. If I go back to the base plate and remove the fixture plate again, you'll see that I've also added a hole through the middle. That's for if you ever want to add a vacuum plate. I doubt you ever would, or anyone ever would, but if someone did, this just future-proofs the design, because that is a hole for a rotating coupler to go through for the air supply to the vacuum plate. The final thing you'll notice is these holes are now countersunk. This is because I've reduced the overall height of the fixture plate. So there's now the screws that go through the bottom to hold the fixture plate. There's now less material for them to bite into, and it was a bit touch and go whether I had enough, so I thought I'd better not risk it. And the fixture plate now has 2 extrusions on it, or sorry, 4 extrusions on it, which come out, and that's what the holes in the base plate are to accommodate. So that gives lots and lots of thread for the holes that go through the bottom of the base plate. Sorry, the screws that go through the bottom of the base plate to hold the fixture plate on. So all of that now means that I don't have to accommodate tall screw heads and so on in the bottom of the fixture plate, meaning that I can reduce the overall height of the fixture plate as compared to the old design, where I had to accommodate these tall diamond pins and tall screw heads in the fixture plate itself. There you go. So if I take those away, you'll see the fixture plate is much thicker and had these holes in it to accommodate those things. The fixture plate is still thick. It's the same thickness from the bottom of these holes to the top here. It's just over 3 millimeters, which is more than enough to give it the strength it needs. And then on the outside of the new design, where you have these extrusions, it's about just a little bit over 5 millimeters thick to the top there. So that to there is 5 millimeters thick, roughly. So that covers all the changes on the bottom of the fixture plate. On the top of the fixture plate, these notches here are a little bit shorter than the ones on the old design. These are 4 millimeters tall. The ones on the new design are 3 millimeters tall. The reason for that is, if I bring up the rack component and the plate component, on the original design, I made this gap and this gap far larger than it needed to be. That's because I made the parts myself on the Pocket NC, and when I designed it, I wasn't sure how much room for error I needed to provide. It turns out I didn't need to provide quite as big a gap as I did, and also the teeth could be smaller as well. So the overall effect was I was able to bring the height down by 1 millimeter, which meant I could bring the height of these notches on the fixture plate down by 1 millimeter as well. Which means the overall effect is that the top of the vise here to the bottom is now 4 millimeters lower than on the old version, which you see here. I think that's just over 19 millimeters. And on the new version it is just over 15. You'll notice also that I've brought the plate out to the edge now. So what this means is there's actually an extra notch here and here. So this has got 5 notches going back to the edge and 5 notches there, 5 notches there and there, so on, as compared to 4. And then it also has 4 here, 4 there, and so on going around the plate, whereas this only has 3. So the effect of that means you can basically push these components further back. I'll bring up the locator component because that is actually extended right to the end. So as you can see, it can go further back, and there it's sitting on that new notch that wasn't previously there. So that means you can hold large pieces of stock basically. So that covers the change I've made to the fixture plate. The next component that I've redesigned is the rack component. So I'll remove the OK Vice plate there. And you'll see that what I've actually done is made the rack a universal component now. So there's no longer a left and right rack. They're the same thing. It's now got a smaller arm coming out of either side. Whereas if you look at the old version, let me get the rack up, you'll see there's a left and a right, so that's no longer the case. There wasn't really a reason for having a left and a right and having that longer arm, other than I just thought having an arm out to one side would make the component cheaper to produce. But that's not necessarily the case, so I may as well put a shorter arm out to either side. The reason for having the shorter arm is that then you can still put the a rack next to each other, which then of course means you can have more than one vise on the plate. You can have 3 vices going across it still. You'll also see that the teeth on the rack are smaller as compared to the old design. There's now 2.5 millimeters between there and there, which means you can move the OK Vice plate and the locator forward and backwards in smaller increments, whereas you see on the old design it's got much bigger teeth and fewer of them. The gap between those teeth being 4 millimeters. And the final change that I'll show you is, I'll just get that back to home, on the new design I have redesigned the locator and the OK Vice jaw to have these little triangular cutouts in them. So you'll see it's on the locator there and on the OK Vice jaw. And what that does is allow you to locate the soft jaws and the nail jaws. So I'll bring that one up very accurately and repeatedly, because you think those little triangles allow you to always locate into the exact same position, both vertically, horizontally, and then obviously you've got a flat surface here, so it'll always go to the right depth. So if I bring up the locator soft drawer as well, you can see it's got the exact same feature on it. Right, so that covers the changes. If anyone's got any questions, as always, just drop me a message on social media, on the YouTube video, or drop me an email.